Hello, everyone. This is Kevin, and welcome to The Cosmic Perspective. On today's episode, I speak with my friend Kaitlin about taking her own leap of faith and making a move to Chicago, her experience in the military, her aspirations with comedy, and we kind of talk about even like social justice warriors and, you know, what's off limits and what's on limits when it comes to comedy. So all in all, I think it's a pretty fun episode. I think you guys will enjoy it. And without further ado, here's the podcast. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Kaitlin.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So for everyone else, for who Kaitlin is another improv friend. I'm going to get tired of just doing that. But yeah, another improv friend that I met, that one of the first times that we had actually gone out as a group, we talked about our love of Joe Rogan. So that was like, my first moment where I was like, this girl's awesome. So yeah. So Kaitlin, tell the audience of like 20 people, tell them what you're all about. Yeah.
I mean,
quick little rundown.
Where do I start? So yeah, first and foremost, huge Joe Rogan fan. I think that's the top of my resume, obviously. Yeah, from the South originally, moved to Chicago for comedy. I used to be in the military. I try to go to the gym more days than I don't. And I'm a big animal lover. Don't eat meat, but I overfeed my pit bull. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So yeah, I think that's a good little rundown. We'll go into specifics.
Sure.
But yeah, so I wanted to talk specifically about your, very similar to like how Darian kind of like upped and moved. You had a pretty similar experience of like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just going for the comedy thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what had you move, and tell them where you moved from? What had you move to Chicago this cold ass winter?
Yeah. Sure. So Chicago was always my plan. I was an odd child, very into Saturday Night Live from a very young age. Gilda Radner was my hero growing up. The Rosanna Dana. And so yeah, that was always what I wanted to do. I went to the University of South Carolina right after high school, and I wasn't happy because I was just doing what everybody was telling me to do. So that's what prompted me going to the military. And my plan was always to come directly to Chicago. But I was dating someone at the time when I got out, and he happened to be stationed in Hawaii. So I made the decision to move there. I was going to finish up my degree, and he was going to finish up his enlistment, and then we were going to come to Chicago, or I was going to come to Chicago, and he was going to go wherever for school. So I moved out to Hawaii, and I was out there for about 2 years. We broke up, and that night I sent all of my stuff, my transcripts, to Chicago. I was like, I'm not waiting around. This is it. I'm moving. I'm done. And so I finished out the semester there and moved here to Chicago and immediately enrolled in Second City.
Hell yeah. It's funny how Second City brings people from all over, even Hawaii.
I know, yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit about it because I don't know too much about Hawaii.
Yeah.
What is Hawaii like? What is it like? Like the day-to-day life everybody imagines that surfer dude.
Right. He's there for sure. I always say, so Hawaii is wonderful, but it is different when you live there. And my experience obviously is going to be different than someone who was born and raised there. You can't help but have love for Hawaii, but it's rough. My entire family's on the East Coast, or the majority of them are on the East Coast. So for me, a plane ticket home was at least $1,200, and there's going to be layovers because there's only small airports near my home. So you're talking 16 hours to get home for the holidays. Then everything's imported. So unless you're just having a diet of pineapple and coffee. So other than that, everything's imported. So things are really expensive. And that's something to consider. And rent is crazy expensive. We had the luxury of being given a housing allowance through the military, but if you don't, people are working 3-4 jobs to make ends meet, and it's very crowded because it's such a small amount of land. All that being said, it's beautiful. You can't beat the beaches, and yes, the surfing out there is fun. The weather's always nice. There's no winter. There's just rainy season. It gets in the 60s sometimes at night. The people are very friendly. It's very different. You don't feel like you're living in America. It's not America.
It's not America.
It's not. The population there's a lot of Native Hawaiians, Samoans, and a lot of people from Japan there as well. So the food there is really good. But there's also, spam's really big there. Yeah. So it's a culture shock for sure. But I would definitely go back for vacation. I don't think I could ever live there unless something happens. Oh, am I not speaking in the mic?
Yeah.
Sorry.
We just got to be mindful of the mic.
I know from the Rogan. Sorry. I'll get real intimate with it.
You just have to pull it in closer.
Yes. Yeah, and unless you have millions and you're living right on the beach, then it would be an amazing experience. Or if you're a pro surfer. But the mentality out there really is work for the weekend.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of job opportunities out there just because it is such a small place. And
you would think it'd only be like community-based stuff.
Yeah.
Like nothing super large. No big corporations building something in Hawaii.
Right. And it's a huge military influence out there as well. And so it's basically if you're in the service industry, it's great because that's pretty much all there is, unless you're, a plastic surgeon or something and you can build your own practice. Other than that, it's pretty limited. So it depends, but I'm glad I did it. And I met some wonderful people. Some of my closest friends, are out there. So
yeah, I mean, and it sounds like it would be an interesting lifestyle. I just know that like coming from Florida where the beach is like the thing, that gets old so quick. I feel like Hawaii would have the same problem.
That's what I was telling I always tell people. It's like I don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate the experience, because I did. And the beaches are some of the most beautiful beaches in the world, no doubt. But I was also getting pissed off because it was hard. I would always have a glare on my screen when I was trying to like binge Hulu, and so I feel like there's this expectation for you to always be at the beach, and it's just like sometimes
you got to unplug from the beach.
Exactly. I want to be in sweats for 72 hours, You're pale and live in Hawaii and people think there's something wrong with you. So I had to move up here.
Like, how are you not outside every day?
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Okay. So you moved from Hawaii. You get to Chicago.
Yes.
And you're in school, but then also in another form of school with being Second City.
Yes.
How did you juggle the two of those, like two completely different mindsets?
It's really not that difficult for me, just because going back to school as an adult, when I first went into college, I think like a lot of kids, I did well in school, and school was never really hard for me, so I didn't feel the need to really apply myself when I was at the university level. And your head's kind of up your ass until you're about 24. Some people never pull their head out of their ass. So for me, going back, it's very much a job. I go in, I get out there, there's nothing to it. And then to having the military background, I think I put up with so much doing that being able to kind of sleep in and have my coffee and walk my dog and then go to class. And that, I mean,
it felt like more freedom, right?
Oh God. Yeah. So
that makes sense. I mean, and sometimes school isn't inherently hard. It's just like more of like they'll make it hard.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not that I don't get stressed out, because I do. I'm juggling a lot, but it's just a different mindset. And yeah, especially compared to, I mean, there's definitely some, squeaky bar still. There's definitely some adults that are in my classes as well, some veterans and some people that left and came back, but there's also some 20-year-olds, and it's just like, oof, you
see the difference.
I feel it's hard. I feel like when you're trying to relate to somebody and you have absolutely nothing in common, and I'm starting to buy like retinol creams for my wrinkles, and they're trying to buy fakes. It's just like, all right,
Yeah, it's pretty funny how there really is like that big difference though between, young adults who just got some freedom, just got outside, and then the people who have now been in the real world for it, the quote unquote real world. It's all bullshit anyway.
Everything,
but,
nothing's real.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Actually, let's just talk about that. Right?
Yeah,
nothing is real.
You want to go in? Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So what about the rat race? So how do you? Because I'm sure you want to get out of the rat race. That's part of why you're into comedy, right? You don't really want to have to do the traditional route.
Yeah. Well, I refuse to.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to. So
refuse to accept anything other than what I want out of life. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, that doesn't have to be whatever. If somebody was dreaming of being the next Britney Spears, and let's say they're not that talented or it just didn't pan out, as long as you can maintain your hobbies and passions and do a job that you're not crazy about, as long as doesn't consume you and take away your soul. Yeah. I think there's nothing worse than, I hate people, not the people, but I hate, I'm sorry. When people are really materialistic and or who are absorbed into a job that will replace you the next day if something happens to you and nobody cares. I understand that certain industries are necessary and that's cool, but I just don't want to be a part of them. I see so much corruption and I don't know. The things I value in life do not correlate with killing myself 50, 60 hours a week for a massive paycheck. If comedy works out and I make it big, that's awesome. But as long as I can pay my bills, that's all I'm concerned about. I'm much more concerned with enjoying my time versus being able to buy a name brand to impress someone who I mean, who gives a shit,
Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah. That's not what I'm about whatsoever. And I can't. I mean, there was a time when I was in high school where I cared what people thought and stuff. And I think everybody goes through that.
Yeah.
But I'm very thankful that I outgrew it. There's so much freedom in not caring and just kind of going to the beat of your own drum. And if that coincides with things that are popular in society, that's great. But I see people, and I know you do too, that just put on all these masks and, or in a job they hate or in a relationship with someone that they really don't care about, but they feel like it's time to get married or, and it's just it's all made up.
It is.
And you just want to shake them. But,
especially because when that house of cards falls.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I don't think you want to be around when that happens.
Right. And it's you're going to be in a relationship for appearances. You're going to marry someone. You're going to build a home with them, possibly bring kids into the mix. And it's just because that's what your parents or your grandparents or society told you you're supposed to do when you hit 28. You know, that's madness.
It is madness.
Yeah.
What draws people to that? Because I don't even see the appeal. Personally,
no,
I actually don't even see why people are going towards that vision of how to live life.
And it's just so much and then you just acquire more and more debt, and then it's you've got to you don't want to do this, but you got to do this because Tammy's pregnant with number 5, and you know, and it's that doesn't need to happen. If you want to be 35 and eat Cheerios and watch Saturday morning cartoons, then you do that,
right?
Because life's short, and yeah, and I mean, you can be ultra successful and still be single, or you could be ultra successful in a job, and it may be just a regular corporate job, but if you're happy, you're happy. I'm not talking about that. And I think marriage is a wonderful thing if it's two people who absolutely love each other and support each other and help each other grow. I think the problem is when people are just well, I paid for eHarmony, so let's put a ring on it. You know,
right?
Oh my God.
That and even just okay, yeah, they were good for you for however many years. And for the last 5, it's been toxic. Okay.
Yeah.
At what point, and I think that's why divorce rates have gone up, is because more and more people have realized, oh, this isn't working. I should just end it.
Yeah.
And you really should. You should cut your fucking losses. But it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm believing that I don't know if anyone is really good for a lifetime.
I think, yeah.
It can exist. I think it's a small percentage, though.
I agree, and I think it's just you have to have someone that's like-minded in their approach to marriage or your partnership or whatever it's going to be, whether you bring the government into it or not. It needs to be, because who you are and who I am is very different than who we were 3 years ago, and we're going to be different in 3 years in the future. And there's some things that are inherently Kevin and some things that are inherently Kaitlin, and those aren't going to change. But experiences do make you grow. And I think if you're going to say, okay, we're in this together, it needs to be somebody who makes you a better person, who when you wake up in the morning, you're happier because they're there, and they help you grow and encourage you to grow, and they support you. Not someone who forces things on you. I think sometimes that's confused. People will be like, oh, no, he just really pushes me. It's like, no, he's making you cry. Like there's a difference, you know? So yeah, it just should be that person who is not only your best friend, but someone who just makes your day better and makes you a better you. Not someone that's molding you to make you better for them.
Right.
And that's something that people often mix up.
Yeah, the difference between like grooming somebody to be your perfect partner rather than you both growing together based off of the way that each other brings out the best in one another.
And I mean, listen, I speak from experience. I've been down that rabbit hole. I tend to, and I have a kind of blunt personality, and when something's done, it's done, and I cut it. With my ex, it was good for a while, but I think there was some codependency there. And without going too far into it, I think there was a certain point I knew it needed to be over, but I had invested so much that I was just like, oh, no, I can't. And then,
over.
And then like, there's just having to explain it to everyone, and then you're talking about houses, cars, whatever, like everything that's tied into it, and then the emotional aspect of it and stuff, and it's just like, fuck it, I'll stay,
Yeah.
And so many people do that, and it's easy to do that, and I was just living in misery. And the nicest thing that my ex ever did for me was to be like, hey, we need to talk. And I mean, thank God, thank God. And like now from that experience, I refuse to settle, and I've become, I'm not like, so I know we're both big Joe Rogan fans. Do you listen to Duncan Trussell's as well, right?
I do. I love Duncan Trussell's. Yeah. Oh,
I do too. Did you listen to the one with Aubrey Marcus?
Yes, I did.
So him and his fiance are in an open relationship.
Yep.
That's something that I've been like I've been listening to and reading about more. I don't know if I could handle that though. I think,
like you said, it was like 1,000
knives. Yeah. And that's something like I'm very understanding. And if you're upfront with me, I'm all, it's especially like with my friends, just be honest. I don't get upset over a lot. However, when it's a relationship, I think there's that mentality where that's
ownership.
Mine. Yeah. And that's dangerous. And I see where they're coming from. And I agree with a lot of things they say. But then like in the back of my mind, I think I could be open to it if it was a long distance scenario. And I've done long distance before and was faithful. But I think I could do that. I think it's like and Ari Shaffir is another one who talks about it. If I'm here and I'm dating someone that I really care about in California and Europe and wherever, and we can't see each other on a regular basis, it makes sense. Sex is a human need.
Yeah.
But then my mind goes to, why don't you just masturbate? Why do you have to be with another person?
Not the same.
I know it's not the same. I know it's not the same. But then let's, and it's hard to, I feel like I could, okay, sure. Like as long as it's not, I don't know if I could be in a relationship with someone who has other relationships. I think if it's just about sex and it's like, hey.
Yeah.
I had protected one night stand, then yeah, all right, let's just
and I have the same that's kind of my thing too, is I'm like, I don't know if I could handle it if it was like, no, that's a full-on relationship you're having with another person on top of it. But if it's more of like, hey, in terms of the emotional stuff, we have this connection, that's why we're together. And every once in a while, if you want to have sex with another person, as long as it's open and communicated to me and I know when it's happening.
Yeah. And they know that you are in a relationship. And
yeah. You can't hide that from the person who's.
Yeah. Because that's not fair to them either, especially if they're into you know?
Exactly.
But that's where it gets muddy. And like he talks about, you know, she like cried over another man. And I like the rational side of my brain is like, okay, maybe. And the other side of my brain is like, you would set his car on fire, you know?
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't. I would just be like, oh man. And then, you know, like I would, handle it in some other way, you know, that was legal. But, yeah, I think like it shows, I mean, there's definitely, I feel like their relationship's more evolved. And it's impressive. And I would like to think that I could do that.
Harder in practice. Yeah. I mean, I'm open to that kind of thing. I think that would probably be better though introduced after you've already been with this person for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if you've...
So not out the gate.
I don't know. I feel like if it's from out the gate, it's like... I don't know. You know, there's an argument to be made for both sides, because I feel like
absolutely.
I feel like right out the gate, if you set that expectation ahead of time that like, hey, we're both seeing other people, whatever, that's fine, and then maybe you would eventually converge where you guys are so tight knit that you can tell that like that's the real foundation, and then the other things are separate. But like if it's like, hey, we're dating for a little bit, and then like after like a month or two, they're like, can I see other people too? Then it would just make me think like, oh, you're just not that into me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's my take on it too. Yeah. Like if it's, I was thinking, so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if it's long distance and you both really care about each other and you talk all the time, but it's just like, hey, dude, come on. We're 4,000 miles away from each other. Yeah, like, you know, if there's like a girl winking me at the bar, then, you know, whatever. But if you go into it that way, and then like maybe you guys do end up in the same state, and then you can be monogamous if that's what you choose. But if you're just dating someone and then they're like a month into it, or like, hey, do you mind if I bone this person? I would be like, do you just want to break up? Like, because that's, you know, like.
Yeah, it's like, or is that just all this is? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which is then fine, but communicate that to me.
Yeah, I think that has to be something that's kind of on the table from the beginning, because then otherwise it just seems suspicious. Or maybe that's my own problem. Maybe like me being suspicious is like, you know, I don't know. I mean,
there's no clear answers. And that's I think that's the whole point, is that it's like our relationships, the way that they're set up right now, are all based on like Puritan values and the Christian religion. Yeah. And that's not necessarily right. You know, like that's not necessarily the way that we were bred. But then the trickiness of non-monogamous relationships is that it's an ever-evolving dynamic involving a bunch of personalities that are going to react differently to the same stimuli. Yeah. So what are you supposed to do?
Right. And then monogamy can work. Like I'm sure you know people, and I know people where they're very much in love. And I mean, of course you have struggles, but it can work. Yeah. So, and I'm sure open relationships can as well. Yeah. It doesn't have to be, you know,
one
Puritan or sister wives. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but I mean, obviously whatever floats your boat. But yeah, that's a heavy topic. And that's something I think too that evolves with the person. Like we were talking about how we change. Yeah. Because if you would have asked me 3 years ago, well, I guess it would depend if I was single or in a relationship when you ask me what my answer would be.
Right? Because if you're in the relationship, you'd be like, oh, single forever.
Yeah. Like if.
Like, or monogamous forever.
Yeah, right. Or two, like it's one thing if you ask me and then I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. But then you're like, what about for your partner? And you're like, oh, you know, then it's like, well, yeah.
Ooh, I don't know if I want them having sex with other people. Right. I think I should.
Right. And then,
yeah. It's like you don't trust them. But like the reality is that if they're thinking the same thing that you're thinking of, like, I know that I really care about this person, but I just want to have sex with that person. Like if you know that that's what it is in your head, right? Like I just want to have sex here, but I'm not really trying to get into their emotional
Right.
then that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
messy.
It's messy.
It's messy. It's like, yeah. And that's why I like listening to him on podcasts, because it's just like, it's opening a door to a world that a lot of people don't talk about. But like a lot of it makes sense. And a lot of it scares the shit out of me. And I think that's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
Run towards what you're scared of.
Yeah. Run towards those open relationships. Just
Oh man, I actually did recently subscribe to his podcast.
I need to. I've listened to a lot of them, but I don't follow him like I do the JRE.
I know, yeah, and I hadn't either, but I listened to one recently, and it was, I forgot what her name was. I forgot who the guest was, but she talked about like all sorts of like healthy emotional releases and like therapy and like I don't know, it's just cool. It's cool to hear those type of conversations, because I feel like when you expose yourself to podcasts like that where they're introducing whole new ideas, honest things that you would never hear in like the school system to teach you.
Right.
Have you ever watched the YouTube channel School of Life?
No.
School of Life. I'm going to shout this out because I feel like more people should know about this.
Okay.
This channel is amazing. It basically gives you a bunch of like life lessons and also talks about different philosophers and like famous like people in history. And they give you these life lessons from a psychologist. Like this guy is a psychologist who does it. And talks about all these things that you never knew about when you're growing up. So when he talks about, I'll give you an example. Let's say, why we self-sabotage or something like that. And it'd be like, the origins of self-sabotage. He's a British dude. And it'll be like, the reason why we do these things is because of things that were outside of our control as children. And then he like goes into the psyche of how something that happened when you were 3 years old could imprint you forever and is the reason why you might behave a certain way. And it's really cool because it's like all these things that you probably should have been taught growing up.
Yeah.
But your parents might not have been equipped.
Exactly.
The people around you might not have been equipped to really not only teach you that stuff, but to deal with their own shit, which they were then projecting onto you, which then you're taking the imprints from.
Right. And that's the thing too. You go a couple generations back and our grandparents were in World War II, and the things that were going on during that time and the way mental health was viewed, it was the suck it up era, and that was trickled down to our parents. So I think it's understandable why our parents' generation wasn't as open, and they're very much like, this is what you got to do just because you have to do it. But now things are coming out, especially with podcasts and different YouTube channels, and just people being more open, because when you put something out there like that, it's crazy how many people are like, yeah, me too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It's the power of the internet, because I feel like we don't have enough real conversations on television or like on.
You can't. Yeah. Because Don's going to pull their sponsorship if you talk about, the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, we're having that problem now on YouTube where they're doing the same thing of like essentially using their power and influence to influence YouTube as a whole. And then YouTube is they're just responding to the ads.
Sure.
I mean, they're not innocent in this by any, I'm not defending them necessarily, but it's just more of like, I understand why they make the moves they make. They're just fucking over their own creators.
Yeah. I mean,
what makes YouTube.
Yeah. I could see both sides, because business is business, but at the same time,
it's like, hey, what about the fact that YouTube is all about that you don't have to be beholden?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's like the creators don't really know who the advertisers are. You don't know who's going to advertise on your video. That's all done by Google. Like, they're the ones who control what displays on it. That being said, though, they do control whether you're monetized in the first place, and that's what they're running into now. It's like a ton of videos are getting demonetized that really shouldn't be. When you look at the guidelines, it's like, why did this get flagged? But then they're losing revenue.
Yeah, that's what Joe talks about a lot. He's like, so many of his get demonetized for trivial things, but it's all done by algorithms too. So it's not necessarily like somebody watched that and said, holy shit, that's offensive. Right? It's just something sparks it, and it flags.
Then, like, he's Joe Rogan, so he can like reach out to them and like
but
you have no power. You're like a small creator. What are you supposed to do? You're just fucked.
Yeah, exactly.
They just silence your opinion.
It's the man coming down on you again.
It is the goddamn man.
That's why we should all run into the caves.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I think it'd be nice to see more real shit being put out into the world, and I think we are starting to see that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, think about like where we were 10 years ago even compared to now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's trending in that way. And I definitely get the vibe that people are more and more like tired of things that don't feel genuine.
Yeah.
And if it feels fake, it immediately is like fake news.
Yeah.
I don't want none of it.
Well, and then too, but the thing is, and I mean, this relates back to the YouTube thing, everything gets commodified. So even being genuine or being original is commodified.
Yeah.
Because I mean, how many artisanal bullshit things are popping up everywhere, you know?
Yep.
It's like, and you're paying twice as much for something that isn't an artisan is not doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's a never-ending cycle and battle.
yeah, but there's always gonna be somebody that figures out a way to make a profit off of something. So I mean, it's probably not even worth getting upset over, you know?
Right? It's not. Yeah, you can't stop it. I mean, I guess the main thing is just if you're putting content out there, it's just trying to be as genuine with that content.
Yeah, for sure.
It'll eventually get commodified.
Yeah.
So one thing I do want to definitely talk about is like fitness and stuff, because obviously being from military background, they teach you quite a bit about fitness. Do you feel like you were already a fitness person before the military, or did the military help you with like your work ethic and dedication?
Yes and no. So beforehand, I mean, I did sports in high school, but I was definitely like also a lazy asshole teenager who would watch TV, and you know, I did. I was weirdly good at weightlifting. I started doing it in a class, and I could lift a lot for my size. And then that led to me actually cracking my L5. So from doing power cleans. And when that happened, I was going into college and I wasn't able to work out, but my metabolism, I was always hungry because I was used to working out. And so then it just led to like I gained weight and I wasn't able to work out. And so I was kind of like, meh. But then, and then I was partying a lot and, you know, usual freshman college stuff.
Yeah.
But then I got back into it and got back in, like not where I was, but in decent shape. And then definitely being in the military was a big catalyst for me getting into shape. There's a big misconception, though, I will say, with being physically fit and being in the military. If you're on the front lines, if you're in the Marines, if you are a special unit like SEAL, EOD, any of those, you have to be in incredible shape for sure.
Yeah.
If you are just a regular member in the military, we have tests that you do twice a year. At least I was in the Navy, so we had it twice a year, and I think that's kind of across the board. The requirements are a little different for each branch, but they normally include some sort of run, couple mile run, push-ups, sit-ups. There's different modifications, you know, across the board, but yeah, so those were expected of you, and you would get weighed. The problem with weight too is I had a lot of friends who were probably like guy friends that were my height, but they were like wrestlers. They were short and stocky. The problem is when you look at a BMI chart, they don't account for weightlifting. So these guys were solid, like brick walls. But when you look at their height versus their weight, they look like they were obese. So they would get put on a thing called FEP, which is where they have to go and they have to do extra workouts and stuff. But these guys were in incredible shape. So they couldn't
just look at them and be like, oh, clearly they're
right. Like everybody knew it was ridiculous. But when you have rules, you have rules. And, you know, especially when it's military. So
it's like those are hard rules.
Yeah. I've heard, though, that they've made some changes and stuff since I've gotten out. But it definitely, the restraints as far as like the physical fitness, it's definitely better to be in shape when you're in the military. But there were some people who were very out of shape that got by somehow. How they did, I don't know. I mean, oh God, I could go on for hours about that. But towards the end, I definitely got more into nutrition. I stopped, and that's when I went vegetarian, and then eventually I went vegan. And I was cooking a lot more for myself. This was after I think I got back from deployment, and I was able to like have an apartment and have a normal routine. And then, yeah, that I definitely got into working out a lot more. And now I'm lifting again, which I've been lifting again for a while, but that's like my true passion. I do cardio because I have to, but yeah, and I mean, I'm always on Reddit and bodybuilding.com and stuff. I very much, I love it.
Hashtag girls who lift.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not nauseating, but no, just kidding. I don't want to offend everybody. No. Yeah. Big supporter of all women out there who lift. I just don't hashtag it.
I know. I actually do want to talk about that a little bit. It's
Okay.
like, it's super frustrating that you can't say anything without like throwing a disclaimer afterwards.
Dude, I know.
Of, like,
especially,
well,
yeah.
I don't want to offend anyone, but it's like, dude, you know when somebody's being a hater and being a hate speech person. Okay, there's a clear difference. Let's use some common sense, please.
Absolutely. That's one thing too with I mean, you know this as well with doing comedy.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are like, hey, you know, and especially me, because I talk to Darian about this all the time, because I'll make jokes and she'll just be like, oh, Kaitlin. But like groaners are my favorite. If I can get the audience to be like, oh, you know, because that's better than a laugh.
Yeah.
And I think like kind of towing the line, like I like doing it. It's funny. Some of the best comedians, that's what they do. And don't go to a comedy show if you don't want your buttons pushed a little bit, you know?
Right.
So
that's the whole point.
Yeah. I definitely think that there are certain, I mean, it really is common sense. There's certain groups that shouldn't say certain things about certain people. And then like, other than that, though, a joke is a joke is a joke.
Yeah.
And I think it's the creators of South Park who said, if we can't make fun of one group, then we can't make fun of anyone. Yeah. I probably butchered that, but it was that sentiment. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's how you do it.
It's how you do it.
Yeah. And I think South Park is the best example of it, because nobody is safe, and they're funny, and they've been on for decades now, and they're original, and I love them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still killing it.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes it feels like certain groups, though, it doesn't matter how you do it. They just want to be offended.
Yeah. And that's a thing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a thing that annoys me. That's something that's hard for me going back into school. There's kids who mean well, but they, like, you know, haven't been the real world.
The quote unquote real world.
Who probably are trying to protect everyone, and I get that, but they're going so far left, it's like a dog biting its own tail.
Yeah.
It's like the first person who slips up and says something, they attack them, like they're out for blood. And it's like, hey, if you know, like, that's a person too.
Yep.
You know, instead of just taking a breath and explaining your side, they just want to attack. They want to be angry. They want to bitch. They want to moan. They want to, you know, and I can't.
Man spreaders. You know, like, they pick stupid battles too, I will say. Like that particular group.
The
ultra lefties.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, the ultra lefty, and like, I'm like, policy wise, I'm like super left. Same. But I just can't fuck with them. I just can't be in that social justice
ultra anything, whether it's ultra left, ultra right, ultra marathoners. Like, you guys are too much. You know, I cannot relate. Yeah, like no, it's too much. I mean, good on you, but like,
right? It's just like, you know, I'm for Medicare for all and for a living wage, and all the things that are like
being a decent human being.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But then I'm not for safe spaces and like everything we say triggers, and just because I'm offended, now everyone has to bow to me. That I just don't fuck with, because it's like, you know what? It's okay to be offended, but that doesn't give you any power. It just means you're offended.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then it starts this, I mean, and it's hard because there are situations where it's valid to be offended, and that people are just being awful. But not everybody is going to bow down to you. And then it turns into this weird like snowball effect where, I don't know, I think it can almost be paralyzing, and being uncomfortable is a good thing. And that's how people learn from each other, or you learn that somebody's an asshole and just, hey, don't talk to him again, you know? And I mean, it's definitely like a different thing when you're talking about, and when you're going into politics and that sort of thing, when you're voting for someone that represents you. But when you're talking about somebody in the workplace, if they're not violating, you know, if it's not something like sexual misconduct or they're not being racist.
Yeah,
like,
no Harvey Weinstein type shit.
Right. Yeah, if it's just something that you don't agree with, do what the rest of us do and make fun of them in the break room.
Right? Yeah, make fun of them later.
Nobody else likes him either. It's cool. Like,
exactly.
He wasn't hugged enough as a child.
If they're truly an asshole, then they're going to end up making their own enemies. You don't have to do that work for them because you end up legitimizing those people by being outrageous.
And then you look like an asshole too if you're just like, I'm not one for conflict anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless it's like UFC or something.
Yeah, but then that's the whole point is because then it's the art of it, the martial art.
Right. Yeah, the martial art.
The martial art.
Yeah.
Which actually you do martial arts. So
I've dabbled. Yeah.
You dabbled.
I dabbled. I'm not currently, so I'm looking into there's a boxing gym really close to me that I'm thinking about starting up at.
Mm-hmm.
I need to. It's just because I've been going out of town a lot lately. I didn't want to pay for it because I want to do it one in a month where I'm going to be able to.
You're actually going to be able to use it.
Yeah, especially if it's a month pass because then you're going to get sick of seeing me. I'm getting my money's worth. Yeah, so I have done. My brother and I, so, I have 3 brothers. One's older. When I was little, I wanted to do everything my older brother did. And he started in Taekwondo. So I did too when I think I was 3 when I started. We moved from Ohio when I think I was 5. So I was there for about 2 years. And then I was in and out. I always did a lot of different sports growing up. I was always all over the place. And then I just switched to where I was doing mainly lifting. And I did like track in high school. And then, but I was lifting throughout. And then in the military, one of my lifting partners, he had actually qualified for the Olympics in wrestling, and he did wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So I just started training with him, and which probably looked pretty odd because he was this massive dude, but a heart of gold. And then I met a guy that did judo through him, and especially when I was deployed, it was just in doing workups, which is where you go out to sea for a really long time before you deploy. You're just looking for any bit of sanity. So being able to get back in there and do that and kind of throw some people around helps. It's a awesome release.
Reliever.
Yeah. So yeah. And then when I moved back here, was doing some Muay Thai, and it's just it's expensive, man.
It's
like,
expensive.
yeah.
Do you worry about like your spine in this case? Like, do you worry about re-injuring it? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a main reason why I didn't join a jiu-jitsu gym. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons I stepped down from Muay Thai because there weren't there are a lot of females that do it, but as far as like sparring partners and things, Muay Thai, you're throwing kicks and punches and you're going to get hit in the head. And you have gear, but you're still getting hit in the head. Yeah, and I was always bruised up. And yeah, already having I know I'm not going to be in the UFC. I know I'm not going towards that career path,
Yeah.
So I don't want to I don't want to get a brain injury. So normally people will gravitate towards jiu-jitsu, which I highly recommend for anybody who wants to try it. Problem is I already have a spine injury that I have to be careful about. So yeah, that is a reason. And just doing a boxing gym, I can get the workout in without having someone hit back, or I can, if somebody does want to spar, I can, kind of be careful about it versus doing like competitions or anything like that, because yeah, I do worry about it, because even now I'm just getting back to the point where I can work on my glutes and my back, and I can do squats and things, and I still have to be very careful. Deadlifts, I have to be extremely careful. I love doing them, but I don't do them a lot, because either I might be off balance because I'm favoring the right side because the nerve damage is on the left. Mm-hmm. Or if I pull the wrong way, I could be out of commit. I mean, who knows? Because that bone's always going to be weaker. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that I think about a lot, because I'm so prone to injury, man. I've been injured so many times in so many different ways. As we were talking about before, like I've been dealing with this tendonitis for 9 months.
Yeah.
And I got it from boxing. I got it from hitting the heavy bag. And from lifting. I think it was a combination of the two. I think I might have first tweaked to doing a bent over row, and then boxing definitely didn't help because you're literally using like that motion. Yeah. And then bar backing and like carrying the crates and stuff, that just made it 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. Especially something like tendonitis, because it's just like everything you do, it's just going to make it more inflamed. So,
Yep.
and it's not like you can just not do anything.
You can't.
Yeah.
I can't just stop using my right arm.
Yeah.
I just, I have to
Yeah,
still use
yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
So that's something that I always am like conscious of, and I miss boxing. Like I miss doing it, but I know
Boxing's
that
fun,
even once my arm heals, like I know that if I'm gonna do it, I gotta like ease into that, and I probably still can't box for several months.
Yeah, and you probably should wear more padded gloves, and like you would have to, man, yeah.
I know, and I had gloves. It wasn't like
Well, yeah. But I just mean like maybe even go, to a thicker glove.
the ultra thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I miss lifting. Honestly, I miss lifting more than anything.
Yeah.
Because it's been since July that I haven't lifted.
It'll come back. I mean, I'm not the one to talk to, because I've been, oh man, I have so many. And like my injuries were made worse from I had some happen when I was in the military, but I was standing on a steel ship for 4 years. So everything on me, I'm not the one to talk to, because I was just, I like tore a bunch of ligaments on my left foot, and I was afraid to go to medical because it happened right after boot camp, and they brainwash you there, and it's like you'll get thrown out, if you're hurt. So I was just like, screw it, I'll walk on it, and it's still messed up. Yeah. So I'm like and I know I shouldn't do it, especially now I'm out. Like, I don't know. I don't understand why I still do it. But, yeah, I have like holes in my knees, like the cartilage is gone.
Yeah.
And I did switch, which you and I talked about this. I switched to elliptical instead of running.
Yep.
And I ran today. But
don't do that.
I need to, though, man, because I was like, people have been visiting me here. And, Chicago is a food city.
Yeah.
So I haven't normally, like, I track what I eat and yada, yada, yada. But now, or recently, people have been coming here and they went deep dish and what am I going to say? No.
Yeah.
And I like that food too. Yeah. So, I was like, I got to be the most, and I get into that mindset and I'm like, got to be as efficient as possible. I'll burn more running. I'm like, screw it. And then like my knees will be swollen tomorrow.
I know. I miss running too, man. I miss running too, but my knees are shit. So
yeah. No, elliptical's the way to go.
Elliptical's the way to go.
Because remember, I hated the elliptical, but then you told me, no, the newer machines feel like a natural, and they do.
They do.
You were right.
They are better. Yeah.
You are right. Yeah.
If you get the ones that are like rolling on like a slope, those suck. But if you get the ones that like the machine, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like the inside. It's like in a circle.
Yeah.
Like the whole machinery is all in that kind of like rounded part. That's the part that then will give you a more natural stride.
Yeah, because my problem was I would get frustrated because I wanted to like pick up my feet. Like I was just like, I just want to run. Like this is annoying.
Yep.
I'm done. I'm over it. But yeah, the new ones, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's a little bit closer.
Yeah. And then my knees aren't on fire,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It still gives me the ability to kind of like go all out every once in a while, and that's good.
Yeah.
But I do miss running.
Yeah.
I miss like really being able to just like sprint and just go. But even if I'm going to do that, I don't really want to do it here. I'd rather do that like in the mountains or, somewhere nature.
Yeah.
Like my favorite thing to do when I was running at a trail at a park. And it was like,
it does make it easier because then you're like outside and then there's something. Yeah. Running on a treadmill. So what I did today was I do interval training. Mm-hmm. So I would do like a walk for a minute, run for 3, sprint for a minute, walk, and then I just kept doing that, and that helps me not get bored because then I'm just like, okay, it's time. What's the time?
The next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
If I'm just steady pace running on a treadmill, I'd rather it's terrible for me, especially just like staring at the same spot. Like then you're like, I'm running. This is terrible. I'm dying. I'm running. So yeah, being outside's always better. But I'm really clumsy too. I've fallen so many times. So trail running is its own monster. And especially here, it's still cold.
It's still cold. God damn it. It's fucking April, okay?
I know.
It's April, and it's 30 degrees? Like,
this is, like, no joke, a state of emergency. And I don't know why it hasn't been called yet. This is... I don't understand how this is acceptable.
It isn't.
I think at a certain point we should just there's got to be some cities we're not using, right? So we could just be like, okay, we're going to cut off this part of the U.S. and we're just going to move these down here. Nobody pays attention to these states like Wichita or something. We probably don't have anybody listening to Wichita. Like just move the Willis Tower there, throw hair in the mix, just move people down there so we can get a little sun.
Right.
Yeah.
That I think we need to just, why don't we just take Chicago and push it somewhere else? I really think like if we could take Chicago and move it to a warmer climate, the exact same city, but just move it to a warmer climate, it would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, while we're on that topic. Okay. So beforehand, for those of you who don't know, we were talking about possibly moving to California. And I was just saying how I recently went to Colorado for the first time, and I am in love. That is one place. So I flew into Denver. It was snowing and miserable there, but it was still a really cool city. Then the next day, blue skies, and I was in Boulder, and we went to this place called Breckenridge. First of all, I've never seen mountains like that because I'm from the East Coast. So I went to the Appalachians. You know, I was North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. Those are the mountains I've seen, and they're beautiful, but nothing like the Rockies. These were just these mammoth, massive, like breathtaking mountains. And then Breckenridge was like, I felt like I was in one of those Lifetime or Hallmark Christmas movies. It was the cutest fucking town I've ever seen. Like you walk down the streets, it was like a light dusting of snow. Everybody's nice and handsome and rugged, and there it was just like Christmas lights everywhere and the cutest little like cottages, and then they even had a cookie store. It was the most quaint. I just kept stopping, and also weed's legal there. I just kept stopping, and I was just like, this is the most adorable, quaint fucking town, like, you know, full of charm in typical Kaitlin fashion. It was just like, this is a cute fucking town. But I have never seen anything like it. It was just the most beautiful town. So yeah, if you feel like you're not a nature lover, that's the place to go. Like so beautiful. And it was sunny. Like I expected to be freezing there. I thought it would be, you know, and like when we landed, it was snowing. Yeah. But then the next day it was like in the 50s and the bluest sky, and it's like Sound of Music. I just wanted to spin through the streets. Yeah.
I'll take 50s and sunny, but then with nature as the backdrop instead of the city.
Yeah. That's how it was. Like, because even when you're in the city, you can still kind of see the mountains, and like there's everywhere. Like it's a short drive to just hit a trail, you know? Yeah. And I was just, I want to just pack up my dog and kind of go into the mountains for a summer or something.
Right. See, that's where I'm like, sometimes I'm so conflicted because I'm like, all right, well, I am trying to build something and do something with my career, and I can't just stop that. But then at other times I'm like, man, I would love to be able to just take a year off and just go into some wilderness place and just hang out there for a little bit.
I am trying to meld the two together. I have my plan, and I'm not going to stop working towards comedy. I'm going to do whatever I can, and I will do whatever I can. But you can always be doing more. And that's something I grapple with too, because I'm like, you could be doing this. You could be doing this, you know? But at the same time, life's short, and there's so many beautiful things out there and so many beautiful people and experiences. And like, I met some of the coolest people when I was there. Like I was just talking to a friend of a friend of a friend's roommate, and like we had an awesome conversation. It was really cool. So I think that's the more people do that, the better the world will be, you know, as hippy dippy as that sounds. And so I think you can still maybe not like just be like, see you guys later and leave for a year, but you could see you guys later and like come back in 4 weeks, you know, if you can like afford it, or you know, I mean, easier said than done.
You got a job, you know, and you have commitments, and it's like, all right, well, I don't have enough vacation time to take off. No,
no, I know. I mean, I don't know exactly. I think I'm definitely going to be in Chi-Town stand up for the next couple of years. And then we'll see what happens, but I definitely want to make time to kind of explore, especially the U.S. because it's cheaper and you don't need a passport.
There's so much in the U.S. that it's like, you know, you don't have to go to Europe to see something amazing. Yeah. You really don't.
You don't. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I've seen a lot of the East Coast, and that in itself is cool because you go to New York and you go to Florida, it's different worlds, you know? So, and I definitely want to see more out West for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I want to travel more, period.
Yeah.
So Colorado was on my list.
Dude,
like I'm going to Colorado this year. It's just,
Especially you, like.
I know.
Yeah.
I need to
gotta
go.
go.
I gotta
You
check
gotta
out.
go.
I gotta check out that legal weed. I
Yeah.
would love to just go into a store and be able to buy exactly what I want.
Dude, have you been to a dispensary yet?
Nope.
Oh my God. I looked at my friend and I was like, we should move here. It was like,
Yeah.
you walk in and it's the coolest experience. So, you got to show your IDs and stuff. And you go in and you have your own little person that takes care of you in their station. And you have a menu like you're at a restaurant. And they're like, what kind are these? And what do these do? And what do these taste like? Yeah. And they're like, show you them and let you smell them. And they tell you. I mean, I spent so much money. I was just like, I'll take one of those. It's the coolest thing. And
it is cool.
Yeah. And the edibles taste amazing and you feel so good. And those mountains are even more beautiful when you're.
I was going to say, that's like the perfect backdrop.
Oh my God. Colorado's got it right. That's why when I came back and I told Darian, for those of you who don't know, she's a Colorado native. And I was like, dude, if that place had a beach, I would be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing. I do love the beach and I love sunny weather. And I mean, I guess they got lakes and rivers there. So
yeah, it's not the same.
It's not.
It's not.
I remember, I don't know how it was.
Is there anywhere that actually has the best of both though?
California.
I know, but then there's other problems that come with California.
Oh God. Yeah.
Like traffic and
drought and people.
Yeah. And too many people.
Yeah. Too many people. And then I feel like the places we would go, especially if we're going for comedy, we'd have to go to LA.
I know.
Or outside, and I do not want to. I mean,
and I feel like the culture in LA is probably also not really our favorite.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that shallow, rich money. That's not me.
Yeah.
So.
But I've heard that you can be like, because you can't be poor and make it work in New York. It's much harder, but you can make it work in LA.
Yeah.
I think it would just be like finding our own little like niche area. Because the materialism and all that will make my stomach turn. Yeah. I can't, man.
I can't either. I want enough money that I don't have to worry about money, but that's about it.
Yep.
I don't need billions. I don't need hundreds of millions. That's too much already.
No. Yeah. No, I just want to, as long as I can buy my dog his special dog food. Yeah. And like I can afford to not have I can buy like a water filter, you know? Like I'm good.
I think the biggest thing for me is that I just want the freedom to not be a part of the rat race anymore.
Same, yeah.
I'm so over it already, and I know that like there are people who have lived decades of doing it.
Yeah, we are very young.
Yeah, but I already have had too much of it.
Same. Yeah, I can't stand it. And you have to be fake because you have to have this job, and it's like, oh man, it's so draining.
It's exhausting.
Like if you could be real in the jobs, it'd probably be a lot easier. Yeah.
And I think we could. I think we underestimate human beings. I think we think that we can't be real with people, but I think we can. And I think if the more people would do it, the easier it would be for people to handle it.
But it's just like we were saying, though. You catch one of those ultras, no matter which ultra it is.
Yep.
Except for maybe the marathon runner, but any of the other ultras, you piss one of them off, and then they're the type that asks to speak to the manager, and then
tries to get you fired.
Yep. Yeah, they're out for blood, no matter who the target is. Like they're modern day vampires.
They are.
Yeah,
they're unhappy with themselves, so therefore they have to lash out at everyone else.
Yeah, it's just, you said a mouthful there, sister.
We just have to get we got to get the silver dagger for the werewolf and
what is it, garlic?
The garlic and the wooden stake for the vampires.
Yeah. Do you remember that? Well, you're a little younger than me. Do you remember my mom is dating a vampire? It was like the kid from Hillary Duff. No? Okay.
You just dated yourself. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I really did. Back in my day in the Disney Channel.
Meanwhile, you're not that much older than me.
I'm not.
But there is a big difference in terms of like the pop culture TV that you grow up on.
Well, not only that, I was such a weird child. I was watching like 80s sitcoms when I was 10, which
Golden Girls. You were a Golden Girls person too.
I still am.
Still are.
Still am. Yes, we'll circle back to that. But yeah, I was watching like Perfect Strangers and Bette Midler and stuff, and not a lot of 8-year-olds were into that either. So this is nothing new for me. But yes, Golden Girls is now all seasons are on Hulu. So I just watch it in the morning when I have my coffee, and I have paintings of them in my bedroom. Where the magic happens.
I'm sure a lot of magic happens with the
with the ladies staring down.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't remember any of the characters' names right now at the top of my head, but I never really watched the
That's
Golden
okay.
Girls.
Yeah,
but I've seen a couple episodes, so
Okay.
I'm not like unfamiliar with the
Yeah.
dynamic.
Yeah. It's very much. I mean, it's just like one of those comfort food shows for me.
Yeah.
I watched it when I was like in 5th or 6th grade. I started watching it. It would come on really late night on Lifetime. So I'd stay up late and watch it. I was always a night owl. And like on the weekends, obviously, because I had a bedtime. And then I just kept watching it. And yeah, it's always been a love of mine. And it's a love of a lot of women who I would say you've got to be at least like 25 or older probably, or gay men. And it's something that we universally connect on because it's a fabulous show. It's really bad 80s fashion. B. Arthur is over dramatic and all of her B. Arthurness on the show. Yeah, it's just, but they were very forward. I will say this, for what they were late 80s, early 90s. There was a transgendered episode. There's an episode about AIDS and stuff. So they really were. And I mean, these were all women who were over 50. So, I mean, that's kind of cool in that respect, but I just like it.
And
too.
that was something that I think was done more in the past of pushing the boundaries and less so now.
Because people are afraid.
Yeah. I think the people who are in charge of like the network televisions, which is what these used to air on, and they used to have all that power. Now that they don't have that power, they're afraid of, triggering people.
Yeah.
So then they have the most safe programming ever.
Yeah.
Where
And
it's basically just, what do you call it? Soap opera.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's so much competition now too. Because back then there was only a handful of channels, So yeah, there's so many competitors and people are afraid to make mistakes. And now you have like Netflix producing their own shows where they can do whatever they want. And so they're like, okay, well, our demographic is the older generation who wants PC stuff. And, so yeah, it's just a weird cycle, but.
It is. But I think that they're dying. They're holding on to every last breath, but those giants are dying.
Yeah.
They're not going to outlast in the long run.
No, because they've got Modern Family. Breaking Bad's been done for a while. That was a big one on cable network. It's really pretty much gone to the Kardashians.
I know.
Which they are multiplying. So that's a franchise that
don't even get me
we're
started
not getting away from. Oh, I did it.
Don't even get me started on the Kardashians.
Dude, I know.
Oh my God. I've said this before, and I know I'm being like over dramatic when I say it, but it's like I feel like they are the epitome of everything that's wrong with America.
Agreed.
And I don't mean that like they're individually like ruining it. Like, of course they're not.
No,
but
they're humans too.
Yeah, they're just people. But their values and what they sell to people.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And I mean, God, good on that. The mom, but she knows how to make a dollar. Yeah. Everything they say, everything they do, everything they put on their face or in their ass is commodified, Yeah. And I mean, they're the ones profiting from it, but it is everything that's wrong with our society. Right. People, kids, what was that cup thing they were doing? And they were like bruising their lips.
Kylie Jenner lip challenge
and people are sucking fat from everywhere and shoving it in their ass. And I mean, do whatever you want, but do it for yourself, not for Instagram likes.
Exactly.
That's scary.
Not for the superficial shit that they're trying to sell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know them personally. Maybe they're awesome people.
Maybe.
But I feel like you get enough of who they are from their show that you can probably tell that.
Yeah. And it's not, there's so much.
They're not evil. I think it's just more of like they have so much privilege and so much money that they really have no conception of what everyone else is really going through right now. And how many people in America are truly struggling. Like I know so many good people who are working their asses off. They have an okay job, but it's like not enough money to truly do everything that they want to do. And it's through no fault of their own. Yeah. They're just victim to the system. Yeah. And the system is only producing these corporations that are not, they don't care if they pay you enough because they'll just replace you. Like you said before, they'll replace you in a fucking second. Yep. Yeah. Even though your actual work and what you contribute to the company might be completely invaluable. But they don't care because they're like, well, we can pay another guy a little bit less and he'll still do the job. It might not be as good as you, but it'll be good enough. Yeah. And they don't care. This is another. So Darian and I were having a conversation and we were talking about
possibly having children one day.
Mm-hmm.
And we were saying it sucks because it seems like the best people you know have had struggle in their lives. Like you need struggle to... It's like, obviously in comedy, there's a lot of people that we've got kind of fucked up backgrounds because that makes you funny.
Yeah. Why else do you want the validation?
Yeah, that too. Love me. Please. Please. But people who know what it's like to work for something, people who know what it's like to have been hurt, to lose something or someone, those are normally the best people. They care. They work hard. They, have strong, good personalities. And when we were talking about having children, and it's like, well, you want to give them the world, right? But my fear is, I'm afraid my kid's gonna suck, because if I give them this wonderful life, obviously every parent fucks up somehow, some way.
Yeah.
But if these kids never have real struggle, then they're the kids that other kids complain about in school and stuff, because they're just their heads up their ass. They don't know what real problems are, so they cry and bitch about everything. And like, I don't want to not like my kid, Right. So, but yeah, that's something I notice a lot. Like just people who they bitch and moan about the smallest things, and it's like, dude,
it's like get your priorities in line.
Right. Like, not only is this not going to matter in 10 years, this isn't going to matter in 10 days. Yeah. And to me, this isn't going to matter in 10 minutes. Like, I'm just trying to find an exit,
I mean, I just wonder, too. It's like, well, how much do the things that you care about on a daily basis change from week to week, month to month? And if you were to, like, write down what you cared about every day for a month, what stays and what goes?
Right.
And then after you see that, I feel like maybe that's a challenge. I might fucking do that challenge.
Yeah.
But like legitimately, it's just like, all right, let's try this out. Write down what is worrying you and what's bothering you. If you see the same thing every day and it's something that you could deal with, then that's probably why you're freaked out about it, right?
Right.
Because you can do it and you're not.
That's the thing too. There's a big problem with people who, and I mean, everybody does this to an extent, but some people will bitch and moan about the same thing over and over and over again. And then you can tell them whatever you want till you're blue in the face, but they don't make any moves. And that is so frustrating. It is. I've done it, but eventually I've made changes, and I'm better about it now because I'm older and I've learned from what I've done in the past. So if there's something that's bothering me, I'm just like, all right, like, you have to have a plan. Like,
I got to tackle it head on now.
Right. Like, no matter how small, it could be something stupid. Like we were talking about doing our taxes. Like eventually you just got to sit down and do it and bite the bullet and do whatever has to be done. Right. Or it could be something, fitness goals, life goals, a career change, but just fucking do something. Make one move. If you make one move, you're going to feel so much better. Yep. And I hate when people talk and talk and talk and you just know it's just talking.
Yep. It's just, how can I fill the air?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's almost like, are you lying to me or are you lying to yourself? Like, which one, who are you trying to fool here?
Right. And I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think it's both.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Lying to themselves probably first, and then lying to you by proxy of lying to themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of hard because with some people you can't tell. It's almost like splitting hairs. Like you don't know where the line is,
Mm-hmm.
like, do they know that they're behaving this way? Do they know they're doing this? Do they know how they come off? Or is it just, are they just lost in it?
I feel like my answer is always, they probably don't know.
Yeah.
Like I usually just assume, they probably are not aware of what they're doing.
Right.
But it does make you wonder with some people where it's like, you're so involved in your own thoughts. How do you not see that? Or, whatever that thing is.
Right.
Right. Their biggest blind spot. It's just, you wonder, it's like the Kardashians, like that type of self-absorbed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's different things. Cause I think it's fine to be, probably think it's fine because I'm like self-obsessive about achieving my goals. Right. So that's one thing.
That's different.
That's different.
That's different.
Than like the Kardashian-esque, I'm so into myself.
Right.
Like,
or somebody that's just like a friend or an acquaintance or a coworker who's just like bitching about the same thing every Monday, you know? And it's just like, okay.
It's like, well, have you changed it?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Karen put down the donut. Like, and I mean, if you want to do it, do it. Just stop bitching about it. Like that's my thing.
Commit.
Yeah. And ownership. If you, I don't know. There's nothing worse than somebody that's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. They do it for a day and it's like, oh, I'm going to get back to doing that. And it's like, okay, stop fucking posting about it on Instagram.
Yeah,
you know?
just do it.
Yeah. Like I use this so that I can giggle at memes that were stolen from Reddit. I don't want to, you know, like I don't need to post on my face every, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's easier said than done though, because working on yourself is the hardest thing to do because it's the scariest thing to do. Being introspective is hard and it's definitely a muscle. And there's some people who haven't even like opened the can, you know,
Yeah.
like they haven't even started. And I think that's when it's most obvious because then everything is inherently surface level because they don't even know themselves.
Yeah. And that's something that I try not to like judge people for on that.
Yeah.
I try
you don't
not
want to close that door.
I don't want to close the door. I know I do though. I know I still like if I'm being honest, I know I do judge him a little bit because I'm like, damn, you haven't done any work on yourself at all, and then you're projecting your whole shit on everyone else without even knowing that that's why you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like I'm being a little bit of an asshole, like complaining about these people too, because I know there's shit I do that people can complain about, but.
Right.
At the same time,
same.
Yeah.
I feel just as guilty.
Yeah.
I've not.
Yeah, I am not perfect, but I will
Right.
admit that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And yeah, I am willing to work though.
And willing to look at it. You're willing to look at what's bothering you.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that matters. It's okay if you don't have the answers at first. You know, it's okay if like, you know that there's something wrong and you're trying to work on it, but you haven't figured it out. Dude, I'll give you more points for that than somebody who doesn't work on it at all.
That's
doesn't
true.
Even think about
That's true. Yeah.
It's not like people expect you to just get there.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just seeing an effort. Do I see an effort of you trying to be your best self? Yes. Okay, cool. Then I got mad respect for you. Regardless of where you are in the journey, you could be just starting that process. But the fact that you're just starting and you could tell when someone's going to stick with it.
Yeah.
So as long as I see that, that's what I look for.
Yeah. It's just weird. And then like too, you start almost like putting people into categories and like classifying them, you know?
Yep.
But
which is bad. It's bad
it's
to
bad.
do that. I know.
It's bad to do that. Yeah.
And
you
fucking
don't
do it. And I know I shouldn't.
Yeah. And then like, I mean, you've got like people like Jocko who are just these superhumans.
Yep.
And then it's like, why the fuck am I, you know? Because I mean, he's a modern day Spartan.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
And that's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely different types of people. So you kind of have to respect that too, you know? So
there are different types of people, but there are certain things that I think are worth putting the time into, regardless of whatever your personality type is, that you will benefit from, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the part.
You just said it all there, though. A lot of people don't want to do things that they don't like to do.
Yeah.
And I, going back to a conversation we had earlier about like the military, it's not that I don't like talking about the military. I just don't want that to be my identity. It's something that I did. It's something I'm glad I did, but it's just, there's a lot more to me, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not one of those who, and I mean, it's fine if you are, but I'm not tattooing the flag on my face and like a veteran, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay. But, one thing that did come through that is if it's something I don't want to do, because there were a lot of times where I couldn't just say, I'm not going to do that. That's not an option there. So I could you go into the spot and you just kind of turn your brain off and you just do it and you get through it. And I've noticed that's something I tap into a lot now. It could be something as trivial as like working out, or it could be having to work with somebody who's just awful, or it carries over to a lot of different departments, but that's something that I'm really glad I have. And I think that that's something, everybody has the potential to do that, but so few people will make themselves uncomfortable enough. And it's not that it's something that I'm patting myself on the back for, because I'm not. And at the time I didn't want to be doing those things. It's just something that happened because I did do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think what you said with, you know, people who are just not taking action, it's because nobody wants to be uncomfortable. But you have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Discomfort is the only way to eventually grow comfortable.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
yeah.
Right? And if you're going to going to take that risk, you're going to do the thing and like really put yourself out there, there's going to be the chance that it's going to hurt you. But the more likely chance is that even if it does hurt you, is that you're going to come out the other side stronger, better, and more able to handle whatever future thing that you haven't run into before than you did when you ran into that first mistake.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like the next thing that's the first time you've ever encountered it, you're going to be more equipped because of the last time you encounter something you never had encountered before.
Exactly. And how can you not be better from that? And I mean, that's with anything. If you're afraid of chasing your dreams, or if you're afraid of asking that person out, if you're afraid, whatever, even if you fail, you're still going to be better for it as long as you don't let it defeat you. Nobody gets successful from doing it one time.
Yeah.
You know, how many, like Dave Chappelle talks about bombing all the time, and he's amazing, you know?
I'm sure now he doesn't bomb at all, but.
Yeah. Or, I think that's too, like when we were talking about marriage, I think that's why a lot of people are in unhappy marriages, because they're afraid of, you know, being single for a little longer than they expected, or they're afraid of dating multiple people and meeting new people and going, because I mean, it does suck. First dates, 9 times out of 10 are terrible.
Yes.
They're a little awkward. Sometimes the people are weirdos, or you know, there's a whole laundry list of things we can go through, and God knows I have my own stories on that. But
another podcast.
So like that fear of whatever it is just makes people stagnant, and then it's so sad because it's like the majority of people are in that in one way or another, whether it's career or dating or all of the above.
So I would say more often it's all the above. I would say it's like a general practice of fear, of succumbing to the fear. I know it sound
like a movie trailer, like
succumbing to the fear.
Yeah, yours sounded more masculine. Mine sounded like I had a cold.
Well, I have a cold.
Succumb to the fear. Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that the more that we push ourselves, the more that we get ourselves to head towards the things that scare us, the more likely you are to grow and to push yourself to that next level. Yeah. But I think we'll end that there. I think that was a good spot.
All right.
But thank you, Kaitlin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you too. All right. Bye.